Welcome everyone to the training webinar series, Eyefinity Encompass Contact Lens Ordering. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to your questions throughout the presentation. You can enter them by clicking on the Q&A icon on the right of your screen. My name is Linda Park, and it is my pleasure to be with you today to introduce Tina Sanchez. Tina has worked in healthcare for over 10 years, 6 years at Eyefinity with expertise in Eyefinity Encompass. She has a master's degree in healthcare management and trains at our Eyefinity education conferences. Tina is known for her enthusiasm for helping others. She was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia, and loves to read and travel. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone for joining. So as Linda said, that we are going to be talking about contact lens ordering in Encompass today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my Encompass screen. All right, so there's several integrations that you can use with an Eyefinity Encompass when it comes to contact lens ordering. For example, you can use ABB Optical. You can use CLX, you can use Fait, which formerly was called WVA. So those are three integrations that you can use with an Eyefinity Encompass. So I'm going to first talk about setup in the admin side of the software. If you are using any of those integrations for your contact lens ordering. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to administration. Now, the setup that you will do will be per location. So if you have multiple offices, you will have to do this setup for each one of your locations. There's not a setting in the the company side. You will have to do it in under your office configuration. So I'm going to go to my office. You can see I have multiple offices here. So I would have to go to each office and set up, my integration. So I'm going to click on my Surfside Optical here. And then I'm going to go into my integrations here on the left. Now you can see I already have my contact lens supplier set up in my office for my Eyefinity ABB. That ABB is the one that I'm using in my office currently. Now you cannot have multiple contact lens integrations at the same time. You can only have one. You're either going to do ABB, CLX, or Fait in the system. Now, if I click on edit down here at the bottom, if I wanted to update this at all, I'm going to click on edit and just have to say I understand the risk of changing things here. And you'll notice here where we have the three different integrations here. Now this does still say WVA, but that it's called Fait now, but that is still under WVA here. So you would select whichever one's appropriate. Now I'm going to talk about ABB first. We'll come back and talk about the setup of the other ones after we talk about this ABB and go look at how do you do an order for the ABB. So if you notice here, I have my account number, and with ABB, you have two options here. You're going to choose either your batch order or your single order. So it does give you an explanation here of what does it mean by batch order and single order. And you can see this applies to all offices. So whatever you are choosing here, that's what all offices have to do. They have to do either a batch order or a single order. So a batch order, as it says here, it will hold invoice orders until the total cost reaches the amount specified below, and then submit to ABB as a combined order. Use this setting to take advantage of free shipping and discount offers from ABB on orders over a set amount. So if you are one of those offices that you're like, yeah, we have to reach this certain cost to get free shipping from ABB on our orders, then you're going to set it up as batch order, and you're going to enter in the amount here, that ABB has told you have to meet in that cost to get free shipping. So when you are creating those orders in the system, when you reach that cost, then you can go ahead and submit those orders as a batch to ABB. When you do single order, so I'm going to click on that, it says it places orders immediately upon invoicing. orders may not qualify for reduced or free shipping from ABB. So if you're that office that's like, yeah, we don't have a cost that we have to meet, we want the orders to go out individually versus going in a batch, then we can select single order. Now you can still set up a batch here and put this as 0. If you still want to do a batch, you can still do it that way. We're not telling you that you have to do one or the other. You do have to do one or the other, but you can do batch order and still have your minimum cost at 0 here. If you're like, yeah, we don't have a minimum cost we have to meet for free shipping, maybe you're, paying a monthly fee or something to ABB, for shipping. If you're in that category, but you can set up as batch and put 0 here in the minimum cost and still do a batch without having to reach that minimum cost to get free shipping. All right, so that's the setup of ABB. Now, I keep talking about cost. Meeting that minimum total cost for batch orders. So when you guys are setting up your contact lenses, when you do have a batch cost that you have to meet here, you want to make sure in administration, when you're going to your contact lens setup, and see my cost category here, make sure you have a cost here. Because if you don't have a cost for those contact lenses, it is not going to add to that batch total that you need to get that free shipping. Because if the cost is listed at 0 and someone, orders like my AccuView Oasis Max 1-Day 30 pack, and it goes into that batch, it's going to add 0 to that batch because it's not depending on the pricing of it, it's depending on the cost of it. So for any offices that are using this batch and needing to reach that minimum, make sure that when you are activating your contact lenses, that you make sure you're pricing these in the pricing section for what you're charging for the patients, and then in your cost, so it applies to that batch when you create the orders. Now, of course, for diagnostic lenses, the one with the DX here, we don't need a cost because we're not really, those are not going to be ordered for the patient. Well, they could be, but they don't need to go towards that batch, those diagnostic lenses, so you don't have to worry about a cost with those, right? All right, so that's the setup for ABB and making sure your cost is in the contact lens setup area. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click on my Encompass logo, and we're going to go now look at a patient and talk about the RX. What does the RX need to look like? And if we're manually inputting it in versus if it's coming from like EHR into the practice management side. We're going to look at those prescriptions. Okay, so I'm going to search for my patient, and I'm going to choose my Sierra patient, and we're going to go over to RX and talk about the RX here. So I have a prescription that was sent over from Eyefinity EHR. And you can see right here, my source, the doctor sent it over, my test doctor sent it over from the EHR side. Okay. Now I'm going to click on this prescription and open it up and show you something that happened when that prescription was sent over. And I'm going to let it load here. And if you notice, you see my supplier here says Eyefinity ABB. So whenever you have your integration set up in the system, like I do for ABB, when the doctor sends that prescription over from the EHR side, it's going to automatically assume that integration. Now, when you go and create the order, you could tell the system, no, I don't want to order it from ABB. I want to order it, maybe from the manufacturer. You can still do that, but at least when the prescriptions come over from the EHR side, then it's automatically going to pre-populate the supplier on that prescription. So you guys don't have to do anything to fix over here on the practice management side. The doctor doesn't have to do anything special on the EHR side to have this supplier populate. Is going to populate because we have that supplier set up in our admin side of of the practice management. So it will auto-populate. Now I'm going to talk about, well, what if we enter in a prescription manually into the system? Patient walks in, has a prescription, they want to order contacts, or maybe, the doctor didn't send the prescription over, or maybe you guys don't have EHR, you're just using the practice management side of Encompass. Then I'm going to walk you through how to add in, a prescription. So I'm going to go ahead and click on contact lenses over here, and basically tell the system I want to input a manual prescription. Now up here at the top, you can see you have the option to choose soft or hard contacts. And we're going to go with soft contacts that we're going to order from ABB. Our doctors here, if you guys want to put in the outside provider info, you can also, put that here under outside provider and select that and add that or search that for that provider. But I'm going to leave it as my doctor here in my office, and I'm going to choose my RX type. I'm just going to go with distance. My expiration's there. Now, nothing pre-populated for us, right? We have to fill everything in. Now, normally you just have to fill in your blue boxes that you're seeing here that are blue. But when we are manually inputting a prescription and we're using any of those contact lens suppliers, we have to select that supplier here. If you do not select the supplier when you're manually inputting this prescription, it is not going to allow you to use the integration. So make sure you're, putting that supplier, and you can see my Eyefinity ABB here because that's the supplier I have set over in administration. If you had CLX or WVA, you're going to have that listed here so you can select that supplier. And then I would just, select everything as normal. And let me see what I have in here. Just going to use that, put in a prescription. And I'm just going to copy over, makes it easier for me just to copy. It copies my supplier over. And then, if the sphere is different, I can definitely, change that. If it's 325 on that eye, then I'm going to change that. But like I said, make sure that you are selecting the supplier so you can use that integration in the system. Don't forget that little piece of information to put in that manual prescription. And I'm just gonna, just remind you guys again, when the doctor sends the prescription over, then that supplier is already populated. So you do not have to worry about updating that, changing anything about the prescription the doctor sent over. All right, so there's our two prescriptions, one from the EHR side and one that I manually inputted. All right, so now we're gonna jump into doing a contact lens order with ABB. So I'm going to go to my contact lens order. Now this patient, I'm doing it as a private pay job. I'm going to say they don't have any insurance to cover their contacts. So I'm going to do a contact lens order. And then I'm going to select non-insurance order here. And we can see my two different prescriptions, one the doctor sent over, one that I just entered in manually. Now, normally you may only see one here, especially if this is a new patient. Now, if you've seen this patient previously in the office, they had other prescriptions, you're going to see those listed here as well, but you can see the RX dates here with the expiration. So you'll know, which one's the newest one and when that expiration date is. So I'm just going to select this one and say this is the one they want to order. So you can see right away my supplier is here. It says supplier Eyefinity ABB. If this was blank, if I forgot to add it on that prescription and I get here and I realized it, then I would go back to my RX section and update my prescription before I continue on with this order. Because if I continue on with this order without a supplier, I will not be able to, use that supplier to supply those contacts and, place this order into my batch so I can send it over to ABB. Right? And then if you notice, it did default to 2 boxes here. It is defaulting to a year supply on this contact lens order. You can see this is a 6-pack. So of course, is going to be 2 boxes for the entire year. And we see the pricing over here based on how I have my contacts, priced in the system. Definitely if your patient's like, yeah, no, I don't want to have to spend $360 today, then we can definitely update this. Maybe they only want to, do a 6-month supply. So then we can just update our quantity, and we're going to click on Add to Order. And then it's going to bring us to our screen here, shipping, to our office. You can update that to ship to the patient. And then here's our supplier once again here. So the supplier is showing everywhere, when we have added that to the prescription or the doctor sent it over. So, we're just making sure our supplier is still showing there. And then if you notice on the right-hand side, mine automatically defaulted to contact lens supplier auto. Now it knew, it's like, okay, yep, she's using the Eyefinity ABB as the supplier. So it did put it as auto here. That means I want to use the integration, but if you notice, you do have other options here. So if I get here and I do have ABB set up and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not ordering these from ABB. I'm going to order these directly, from the manufacturer. Then I'm going to choose contact lens supplier manual. That makes it where this order will not become part of my batch that I'm going to send over to ABB. Okay. You also have inventory here as well. So if this, if you have a stock of contact lenses in your office that you sell those boxes to patients, then you can select inventory here to indicate that you're, taking it out of your inventory that you have at your office. Now, I do want to mention one other thing here because I've been talking about this batch the whole time. So when it comes to a batch being sent to your office, it does become part of that batch. This order would, if I'm sending it to my office. But if you choose here to mail to patient, those orders will go directly to ABB individually. And when you do mail to patient, you do have the option on the fee slip to add a shipping charge that patient has to pay, if there's any shipping related to their order, because maybe they're not doing a year supply. I know a lot of times with year supplies, you have that option that it's going to be free shipping, for that patient ordering that year supply. But we have our patient that decided they didn't want a year supply. They, only wanted one box per eye. So you can charge them shipping when you do the mail to patient. But that does not become part of the batch. It is an individual order that will go out by itself to ABB. Okay. All right, so I'm going to say contact lens supplier auto here. It's coming to our office. Everything looks good here. I'm going to continue to pricing. And here's my fee slip. And it added an exam here because my patient had an exam in here. I didn't realize they did. So let me see if I can trash can this. It'll let me get rid of it. There we go, because I'm only dealing with my contacts. I didn't want that exam there. But if we wanted the exam there, of course, we would, leave that exam charge there so we could charge that patient for their exam. Or, if they had insurance to cover that exam, we could apply that insurance. But this was a strictly private pay job. So this patient owes us $180. So I'm going to save an invoice. And then I'm going to document their payment. I'm just going to select cash. And then I'm going to save. Now, before I save, just a little reminder here. I know this is all about this contact lens ordering, not really about all orders, but remember the service date down here at the bottom, just as a reminder here that if you guys need to backdate, this is where you would do it. So let's say, for instance, Sierra was in my office yesterday and I get a chance to put this order in, then I would want to backdate this to the 6th to make it, reflect the correct date that the patient was in, especially when it comes to exams. You want to have that correct date so you know exactly when you saw that patient, and if it's being billed to insurance, that it has that accurate service date on there. Okay, so we're going to save. And I'm going to process my order now. Now, I do want to process my order now. That's the only way it's going to show as part of my batch. If I put it on hold, it keeps it out of the batch, okay? Because that's like any eyeglass order as well. When you put it on hold, it puts it into a lab on hold status. So it's not going to show as part of the batch. It wouldn't go to a lab if it was an eyeglass order. But I'm going to process my order now. And then of course it populates the patient's receipt, but I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And then here is my contact lens order. And look at this little integration status I just got. I got auto ABB order because I told the system that I wanted this to become part of my batch. And you guys would get this integration status here as long as you select a contact lens supplier auto, with that integration. And then I can also click on my little caret here, and you can see some additional info here. Here's my order number, Eyefinity ABB, and it's just standard shipping. Right, I'm going to close that up. Now let's talk about if at the end of the day, I put in all my contact lens orders in and I'm like, I'm ready to send these out to ABB because I created a batch. So where you guys have to go to find your batch, you're going to go over to inventory and product inventory. And it is going to be right here in this stock tab. That's the tab you always default to when you come into the inventory section. So you can see there's my order has come here. Now, if I want to look to see, what is part of this batch here, I'm going to click on my little caret to the left. And there's my Sierra Sanchez patient. And you can see my cost there that went towards my batch total of $64. So $32 per box was the cost because I had that cost, over in my admin side of the software. So I can look here and say, okay, these are the orders that are going. Now, I have not reached my batch total, right? I only got up to $64. So if I was to send this, I'm not going to get free shipping from ABB more than likely because my batch total, was 150. Now you still can send these jobs even if you've not reached your batch total. All you simply do is go to your little icon over here. To me, I've always said it looked like a little toaster, but maybe not, but it's there so you can hover over and send your stock orders from here. Now, if I had reached my stock order total cost of 150, that icon is going to be green, indicating that I have reached that batch total. Okay, so either way, you can send those orders out, whether it's green or it's still black and white, you still have that ability to send those out. And once you send those out, you will get a different status here that is like, accepted, or you'll get different statuses that you'll see in here that, come from ABB to let you know what's going on with the order. All right, so that's the ABB integration. So now we're going to talk about the two others, the WVA and, Fait WVA and the CLX. So those two work very similar. So let's go ahead and go back to administration and let's take a peek at those. So let's go back to Surfside Optical, and remember we're going to go to our integrations here, and that's where we would update. And if you notice, I can't click on this right now. I can't change anything before I click on edit. I'm going to understand the risk, and then I'm going to select my WVA. Now, do you notice that all that additional information here disappeared? So if I go back to ABB, we have batch total single order and our batch total here. So with all the other two integrations, you do not have those options. So with Fait and CLX, those orders will not ever be in a batch. They're going to be individual orders every time when you use those integrations. Unlike ABB, you can decide if you want to do single order or you can do a batch with ABB. But CLX, Fait are both always going to be single orders that are going out to the contact lens supplier. And then, of course, you would put your account number in here, for either one of those, and then I would just save. All right, so I am going to go and we'll go through another scenario with another patient, to now use that CLX integration. So I'm going to look up my summer patient. Now, this patient, they actually have insurance and they want to use their iMed. I already went ahead and put their eligibility in, for their contacts here. So we can see there's my eligibility. And then I'm going to go to look at my RX section. Now, doctor hasn't sent any prescriptions over, maybe the doctor didn't see this patient, maybe, you know, they were just a walk-in or whatever be the case. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually input a contact lens RX for this patient. So similar to what we just did, I'm just going to use the same thing. And now we'll go to our supplier. Don't forget about selecting your supplier if you're using any of those integrations. And now you can see we have CLX here versus we had ABB previously. So I'm going to choose my CLX and then go through, you know, choosing my prescription. And let's see what I want. I'll just use this one. And then I'm going to copy and say they're both the same, and then I'm going to save it. So main point of this, you know, select that. And now look at this neat little message. This is what I really like about the system as well. So CLX, when I said CLX is my supplier, it tells me up at the top, wait a minute, this is not supplied by CLX. It will do that with ABB as well. If you're manually inputting a prescription here, and if you put in some lenses that are not supplied by that supplier, then it will tell you right here on this screen. So then you're like, okay, yep, this patient, we can't use our integration. We have to, you know, probably order it directly from that supplier instead of using our integration. So then if I see that, then if I'm like, yeah, this is the contacts this patient is getting, I'm going to remove this so I can just do a manual order. I'm not going to use my integration at all. Because then if I remove this and I try to save it, and it looks like it does not want me to, let's see, let me reset it. So I would have to basically start over and say, okay, yeah, this is the one. So if I go here and let me choose these same ones just to show you. Then copy. I don't have my supplier there. So of course it's going to let me save it now. Oh, once I have this. So of course it's going to let me save it now because I don't have a supplier, since it gave me that message saying, hey, you know, these contacts are not supplied by CLX. So I would just, you know, do this without my integration. Now I'm going to go back in there and see if I can change this, and it's going to choose, see if this will let me do it. Yeah, so CLX, they don't even offer this. They don't even supply this one either. So I'm not sure, yeah, which contacts exactly that they supply. Let me choose this and see if it'll work with this. Okay, well, it doesn't like our CLX supplier. So anyway, you know, you guys would know, you know, with your office, what contacts are available through your CLX, you know, who you can order, you know, through there, also with your, you know, WVA as well. So now I'm going to take this out and I'm going to go through an order that, you know, without that supplier, because definitely want to see that as well. So let me choose my provider. And let me choose something different. Okay, I'm just gonna choose something different here just to show you, you know, what you have to do when it comes to if you're not using, you know, the supplier for these particular contacts. All right, so this one doesn't have my supplier in there, but you know, I would select it if we were ordering these contacts through there. Then I'm going to go to contact lens order and just going to show you, just remind you on the order screen. And I'm going to add to order. I'm just going to choose the 2 boxes here. Do you notice our contact lens supplier auto is missing from here? Because if you notice, our supplier is blank here because we didn't put a supplier. So it doesn't even give you the option to choose contact lens supplier auto here if you do not have a supplier in the prescription. So that's a great thing. So you guys are not, you know, putting something into your batch that you didn't mean to when you don't have a supplier. So then you would just choose manual here and then, complete the order as normal but this order, of course, is not going to go over into our batch or anything. It's not going to go and send it out to that supplier because now let me get rid of these. We said that nobody's supplying it. So basically we're going to order it manually outside of the system. And let me delete that. All right, so then, of course, we'd apply our insurance, but we have to have this checked off. Yep. And then we would choose our contacts, calculate benefits, and, say if the patient owes anything, let's say they owe 100, save. So then once you're done with this job, then you guys would go, to the particular website and order these contacts for this patient. Since we did not use any supplier in there. So definitely that can happen. It can happen both ways in your office. Some orders you may be ordering through your contact lens supplier. Some orders you may be ordering outside of the system, just like this one. And if you notice, there's no integration status here because that's not being sent through our integration. Okay. All right. So lastly, I'm going to hop back over to administration. And I'm going to go back to my office. And we're going to try it now with our Fait integration. So I'm going to use this one and save it. And then let's go back. And I'm just going to go back to my same patient using my quick list. And just go back here. And I'm going to put in a contact lens RX. And we'll see. And there's our WVA or Fait this time. And we have it set up in administration. And I'm going to try something. Hope I have better luck this time. Save. Oh, great. So there we go. So we entered in that prescription, and because those, you see, we didn't get that message because these contacts you can order through that Fait integration. So, all right. And then we would just go to our contact lens order. So we'll go through this order. We're going to just do a private pay job for this one. And there's our prescription. Now it does default to our year supply here. And maybe the patient's like, nope, don't want to do year supply. And I'm going to add to order. And you can see my supplier automatically defaulted to auto because I have my supplier over here in my prescription. Okay. And then I'm going to continue. But if we needed to change that, of course, if we got here and we did have the supplier in that prescription, because remember, any that's coming from EHR is going to automatically default to the supplier being in there. But if you're like, yeah, these contacts, we want to order those manually outside of the system, select your manual here. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue to pricing. Keep adding my exam here, wants me to invoice my exam, but I don't want to today. And of course, if you guys seeing your patient in your office for an exam, we would leave these exam charges here. And I have it set up in administration that it automatically adds on my exam charges. You may not have it set that way in your office, but I have it set that way in my office that it automatically adds on those exam charges so I don't miss them. All right, so I'm going to save an invoice. This is a private pay job. And select how the patient paid. My patients all have cash today. And then I'm going to process my order now. And then there's our receipt. And then let's hop over here. There we go. You can see it says Auto Eyefinity WVA order. So, and these go automatically. So let's take a look at this. So that says auto Eyefinity WVA order. Let's go back to my other patient, my Sierra patient, and let's see what did that integration status say. Auto ABB order. So you can see the other one says auto Eyefinity WVA order. This one says auto ABB order. And then let's go jump over to inventory and take a look and see what happened. And there's my order. And that, like I said, for this integration, this order would go out on its own. Right now it's still sitting there open for me, and we can see there's my Summer Sanchez. There's no item cost in there because these contact lenses, I didn't have the cost in those. So keep in mind, that's important, especially for ABB users. If you guys are going to order through ABB, make sure your cost is in there. For WVA, Fait, and CLX, I cannot put a batch total in there. These are, going to be individual orders. All right, so that is our integration. Now, very last thing I want to show you guys, don't forget about the help menu in here. So, you may watch this and be like, wait a minute, what did she say? How does that setup happen? Or maybe you don't want to go back and look at the video again to say, how does she say to set that up? Or how does it all work? So if I go up to the help menu and go to help topics, and I'm going to type in contact lens integration. And right here, creating contact lens orders using an integration. So I'm going to click on that, and it gives you all the info. Creating a contact lens order using ABB, creating a contact lens order using Fait Distribution, and you have a video there, and then creating a contact lens order using CLX. So, and then you have a video here. So, all that info is in here on how you create those orders, selecting that appropriate supplier, contact lens supplier auto versus the manual, because it tells you right here, if you select contact lens supplier manual, the order is not sent. But if you do auto, with Fait, it's going to send that order out to them. For ABB, if you have the batch set up and it's coming to your office, then it's going to go, into that batch total for you to send out at the end of the day. If you select that you're going to ship to patient, and you want ABB to ship those to the patient, those are going to be individual orders as well. So all that info is within here. So you guys can take a look at this if you have any, any additional questions, or say, hey, yeah, I want to go watch the videos that are available here in the help menu. All that is included in here. All right, well, that is my presentation. Linda, do we have any questions?
Yes, it looks like we do have one question, Tina. If shipping to the patient, will the order still go out through the auto integration feature?
Yes, it will. So when you select on the order ship to patient, it will just go out as an individual order. Like for instance, for ABB, it will go out as an individual order, and ABB will get that order, and they will see that it should be shipped to the patient, and they'll ship it directly to the patient. It will not become part of your batch like like these did, and just sit here, and you have to send them out at the end of the day. Those ship to patient orders will go directly to ABB, and they will be shipped to the patient.
Perfect.
And also,
Oh,
you guys can charge them shipping. Sorry, you can also charge them shipping on those mail to patient orders if you do need to charge them shipping as well.
okay, perfect. And it looks like that is the only question that we had today. So thank you, Tina, for that. And if you're looking for more training, check out our other learning options such as documentation, tutorials, and walkthroughs, role-based training, additional training webinars, one-on-one virtual training, and on-site training or consultations. You can learn more at eyefinity.com/education. And with that, I would like to thank you, Tina, again for your time and for the valuable information you shared with us today. And thank you to all on the line for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you.